What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and today is cutdown day, okay? All 32 NFL teams have to get to their 53-man roster by this afternoon. I believe it's 4 o'clock this afternoon, right? So we are going to continue to hear about cuts all day long. And quite frankly, you got to keep an eye out not only today, but for the rest of the week, right? Because there may be some surprise cut elsewhere in the NFL that all of a sudden somebody is available and then we go ahead and sign. There's going to be the process of trying to get players through waivers to get people back onto the practice squad. That's why it says there on the bottom 53-man plus, okay? So it's not only today, this is one of the deadlines, but there's going to be some roster moves throughout the week. And then remember also, there's still some veteran free agents out there, right? Guys like Justin Simmons at safety, Amari Cooper at wide receiver, Asante Samuel Jr. at cornerback. So teams are doing this and then will retake kind of stock of themselves, look themselves in the mirror and see if there's any way that they can upgrade. You've always heard guys like Muji and Glenn and all over the league saying we'll continue to monitor, we'll always look for ways to make ourselves better. Well, this week is going to be huge for that before next week, which is officially week 1 of the NFL season. But let's get into it, right? And take this with a grain of salt, right? I record this, and by the time you guys see this, maybe there have been even other roster moves. But as of now, one of the biggest moves that I would talk about is the fact that it looks like the Jets are going to make Brady Cook their third quarterback. They cut Adrian Martinez, leaving Brady Cook on the roster so far. We know about Tyrod Taylor. I think Brady Cook is won the competition to be quarterback 3. Remember, undrafted free agent out of Missouri. Remember, had Armand Membu blocking for him for years, okay? And in the preseason, I actually do think he outperformed Adrian Martinez. He went 25 of 38 for 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He also ran a couple of times. Remember, he was one of these athletic guys at the combine, ran a 4.6, which is great for a quarterback, right? 88th percentile there. His athletic score was really one of the best we've seen at the quarterback position, literally in the last 30 or 40 years since they were coming up with that relative athletic score. And here's what he had to say. He goes, I'm excited about the body of work I've put out there and now how I've grown from spring until now. And I love the Jets, so let the cards fall where they may. And remember, cutting or releasing Adrian Martinez was a big move. Okay, and that's why I say he is poised, because you never know. Maybe there's a veteran quarterback out there that gets cut that the Jets want to bring onto the roster. But I like Brady Cook. Obviously, the new regime, the new brain trust saw something in Brady Cook. And what I always say is that he has the ability with that kind of athleticism, same as Justin Fields, to go ahead and run that same playbook, right? Run the same scheme if he was pressed into action. One thing to keep an eye out is if Adrian Martinez, though, clears waivers, because if so, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets try to bring him back on the practice squad. But shout out to Brady Cook, going from an undrafted free agent to maybe, just maybe, making the Jets 53-man roster as their third string quarterback. But you got to give it up to Darren Muji, actually, right? Because of some of the moves he's made. We've really been talking about those defensive line upgrades that happened last week with the trade of Harrison Phillips, with the trade of Briggs as well. And that continues to happen because he also found a taker for Derek Nottie. Remember, when they brought in Harrison Phillips, when they brought in Briggs, I thought that this was because Nottie had not shown up in training camp, had not flashed like the Jets had hoped when they signed him for free agency. But instead of just releasing him, Muji was able to trade him back to the Kansas City Chiefs for a kind of late round pick swap, right? But here's something interesting. Aaron Glenn was talking about Harrison Phillips specifically, and he said that he's had his eye on him for a long time. Listen, he goes, first off, I'll say he's one of us. His mentality, the character, on and off the field. He's a damn good run stopper. I remember going against him all those years when I was in Detroit. He was a guy we tried to target, but obviously he ended up signing up back with Minnesota. Everything about him fits with who we are, so I'm happy that we got him. I'll say the same thing with Briggs also. I think Moogs did a hell of a job identifying guys that fit us, and that's what we're all about. Those two are really good upgrades for us. And I think Glenn has a couple of points in there. One, he saw Phillips a lot in Minnesota. It was interesting news that he tried to get him in Detroit. He's had his eye on Phillips for a long time. I think that is important, okay? And also, I don't know if you heard on the last preseason game against the Eagles, J.J. Watt, who was on the broadcast, said, listen, Phillips is literally, quote-unquote, a phenomenal run stuffer. Called it a great move for the Jets, and that he would pair well with a guy like Quinnen Williams there to stop the run. We know stopping the run was something that we definitely wanted to address the entire time, whether it be in the draft, in free agency. And again, I love how Muji and Glenn really kind of fulfilled what that little tagline is all the time when people say, oh, we're always looking to improve. We're always monitoring the league, right? Muji and Glenn definitely did that. It was interesting that Glenn mentioned Briggs as well, kind of as an upgrade, because I think they're definitely keeping them. Because Nadi is gone, I am now projecting Quinnen Williams, Harrison Phillips, Juwan Briggs, Jay Tufele, and I think Leonard Taylor is going to make this squad as well. Those are 5 interior defensive linemen for the depth chart. Obviously, we will see what it looks like at the end of the day and at the end of this roster churn. And that's really just the interior, right? Because we also have edge rushers, and Aaron Glenn was talking about the potential of this edge rush as well. Remember, Jermaine Johnson, back healthy, back activated off the PUP list, along with Will McDonald, who really flashed last year, double-digit sacks, and a lot of people are expecting him to have another breakout season, do even more this season. Listen to what Aaron Glenn said about the potential of this Jets pass rush. He goes, obviously, we see that Will has a fastball in this league that is elite. Jermaine is a bigger body, a true power player, but he does have speed also. And when you have that dynamic, you can have one guy from one side rush with power right through the tackle, and then you also have another guy with speed coming that can make a play. That's a hell of a rush for the most part. Then you have guys in the interior that can push the pocket, and it creates a great rush. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys work together because they do have different skill sets. He's talking mostly about JJ and Will McDonald, but obviously now even Harrison Phillips, who he's liked for a long time, pushing the pocket along with Q. He says, but these guys are really good players and we're going to utilize them to the best of their ability. And remember, the Jets actually were decent creating a rush last year, okay? They were 5th in the NFL with a 34.4% pressure rate, tied for 8th with a 7% sack rate. And that was all 2 things. One, without Jermaine Johnson, okay? And they didn't blitz much. They blitzed only the 13th least amount of time in the NFL. And I also believe, guys, that remember, we've talked about this under Steve Wilks, that they are probably going to blitz a little bit more with the linebackers. You had Sherwood, you had Quincy into this mix, and there is definitely potential for this Jets pass rush, and it has been augmented by the acquisitions of Phillips and Briggs. So we really like that. I mean, and you have all sorts of stats there, right? Like Will McDonald, what he did last year, what Jermaine Johnson did when he was healthy back in 2023, what Quinnen Williams has done literally in the last couple of years, 2nd most in pressures, 3rd most in sacks. So definitely a reason for this pass rush to be vaunted. And I will say this, keep an eye out. Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson may both get double-digit sacks. Only 4 teams did that last year. Denver, Baltimore, Houston, and Minnesota. Denver, Baltimore, and Houston were 2 of the best defenses in the league. Baltimore in the second half of the year, one of the best defenses in the league. Minnesota, we just talked about it as a good defense, and now we got Harrison Phillips there as well. So I really think that's going to be a good combination and, you know, something to be afraid of. You combine that with the coverage set that we are identifying in the secondary, right? With Sauce Gardner, Brandon Stevens, A.Z. Thomas, the lanky press man coverage. You combine that with 2 Pro Bowl caliber linebackers in Quincy Williams and Jamie Sherwood, who both have over 100 tackles, in the top 10 in the league in tackles. This could really be a big-time defense, and that is going to be the identity of this green and white team in 2025, along with running the ball, a time of possession, and trying to play mistake-free football. So we'll see what the 53-man roster looks like, and that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. But as always, remember, there is a link in the description. Click on it. You can become a Jets Latest insider, get access to exclusive additional content, other kind of perks here, maybe even good old fantasy advice, sports betting advice, because remember, I have come to this in, the fantasy game here. And like I say all the time, I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on Channel 87 on Sirius XM, and it is prime fantasy football season. If you need help with your draft, if you need help with your keepers, if someone's proposing a trade to you, hit me up on Twitter and X at Spittin' Speeds, and obviously here always at Jets Latest. But let's look at what some of y'all at Jets Latest have to say. Sharon McLean out there. I mean, Sharon McLean might be the first person to become a Jets Latest insider, has been a day one regular. Shout out to Sharon McLean. Says, Brady Cook is tough as nails. I like that. I think he absolutely is. You heard Amar Membu talking once about how he was taken to the hospital in a game, came back and led a fourth quarter drive to win. I think the new regime likes him, and I think he's going to be our QB3. Shout out to Sharon McLean as usual. Patrick OCNMD says, let's see how the Jets look after the first 3 games. That's going to be very important, as the Jets are how they're going to do this year. They're facing 3 good teams, and I really think they need to take 2 of the 3 games and put them in the win column to have a decent season. That's the way it looks to me. They need to take 2 of the first 3 games. I agree that the Jets' schedule starts a lot tougher, then it kind of opens up. Remember, we've been doing the schedule breakdowns. The end of the season, I think, is manageable. Games against Jacksonville, the Saints, and others, the Browns, that I think they can beat. The beginning of this schedule is Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Tampa. That's what you're talking about here, right? To try to win 2 of those 3 is going to be tough. I think if they get 1, they're still in the mix. I think they're going to win the home opener against Pittsburgh next week. I think they're going to beat Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to pressure Aaron Rodgers. Buffalo, very tough, one of the Super Bowl favorites. And then I think at Tampa is a very tough game. I think the Bucs are underrated, underrespected as kind of 2-time defending champions there with Baker Mayfield. So if they go 1-3, to start. And then I think they need to get that Monday night game against Miami, which is week 4. I think if they start 2-2, they are primed to be able to then stay in the mix, get better, continue to develop, and then be really good at the end of the season when the schedule does in fact lighten up a bit. We also have comment from RTWB7P. That's the username. Says, good show, Dane. Thanks to everybody, okay? Thank you. I try and do my best out here, giving it to you, the real stats, real insights, real quotes, real optimism, but mixed with being objective about the Jets, Jets. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed, the views, the likes, the comments. I love engaging with you guys. Keep it locked in. Tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. I tell you, hit me up on social media. Listen to the radio show on Sirius, but I will be here every day in what is a big week, right? We're going to know the roster. We're going to break down the roster, and then we are looking forward to week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? But that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. Like I said, tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. Come on back tomorrow, but for now, we out of here. Peace.